All right, let me start like this. Over the last few years, I've worked with a lot of people who run webinars, coaches, course creators, consultants, smart people who genuinely know their stuff, just like you. And almost all of them make the same mistake. When their webinar doesn't convert the way they want, the first instinct is always the same. They say, I think I need to add more. More slides, more teaching, more examples, more stuff, really. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable because you're thinking, if they don't buy, maybe they just don't understand it yet. So you try to explain it better. But here's what I've learned after seeing this play out again and again. Adding more content to your webinar usually makes it worse, not better. And if you've ever felt like people stay until the middle, but then they drop, or they say this was great, but then they don't buy, or you finish the webinar feeling like you gave everything but got nothing back, this is probably why. If you stay until the end of this video, you will get a clearer picture of why this happens and how to fix it. Let me explain this in a very simple way. When was the last time you stopped paying attention because there was too much going on? Not inspired, not excited, overwhelmed. Maybe it was a long email. Maybe it was a complicated set of instructions or a YouTube video that just kept going on and on and on and on. At some point, your brain checked out, not because the information was bad, but because it was too much. That's what happens on most webinars. The presenters keep thinking, if I just explain one more thing, they will finally get it. But the audience is thinking, okay, this is too much. This is a lot. I can't handle it, can't process it. And that's where things start to fall apart. So here's the mistake in plain terms. Most people think a webinar is about teaching. It's not. A webinar is about helping someone make a decision. That's it. Helping someone make a decision. If your webinar teaches so much that people feel like they can now do it on their own, you just accidentally talk them out of buying. I see this constantly. People don't leave thinking, I need help. They leave thinking, I can try this myself. You're basically not doing a webinar, you just gave them a workshop. And once they think they can do it themselves, the show is over. The sale is gone. Now let me give you a real life example. Imagine you want to fix something in your house. You go on YouTube and you search how to fix a leaking sink, for example. You click a video. If the video is short and clear, you think, okay, I see the problem. This is more complicated than I thought. You start thinking about calling a plumber. But if the video is super detailed, every tool, every screw, every step, you start thinking, well, actually, I could probably do this if I just follow the steps. Or you're just lazy like me and you call the plumber anyway. Anyway, what happens after? You don't call the plumber. You save the video, you tell yourself you'll try it later. That's exactly what your webinar is doing, okay? In layman's terms. You're turning buyers into DIY people. If you teach them too much, they will start to do it on their own because you're not reflected on their pain. But we'll talk about that in a sec. Here's why this is hard to accept. You worked hard to learn this stuff, okay? And you want to show that you know what you're talking about. You think that if you come across as a person who knows their shit, right, then they will buy and your credibility goes up and your authority grows in their eyes. You don't want people to think he's holding things back, right? I get that. That's okay. That's fine. We've all been there. But here's the truth. People don't pay because you told them everything. They pay because they finally understood what matters. And those are not the same thing, these two. Here's another example, and I think this is more everyday than a leaking sink, right? Think about going to the gym. Imagine a trainer sits you down and says, okay, here are 37 exercises. Here's how muscles work. Here's how nutrition works. Here's how recovery works. And then you go, okay, that's enough. Thank you. Sorry, I'm confused. That's too much info. TMI. Wait a sec. Wait a sec. Stop, 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 stop. Honestly, you're just unmotivated at this point. Now imagine a different trainer, okay? A different guy comes along and they say, look, if you do these three things consistently, your body will change. Most people never do them properly. That's where I help. Does it feel doable? Does it feel clear? Do you think that's actually helpful? That's the difference between more content and useful content. Seriously, that's it. So what's actually happening in your webinar? Now let's break this down. So when you add more and more teaching, a few things happen quietly in the background. People get mentally tired. That's cognitive load we're talking about. They stop listening as closely, so they will just simply lose interest. They start thinking about how to apply it later, so they postpone it, and the urgency just disappears. Nothing feels wrong in this moment, but the energy drops. And by the time you get to the offer, they're already halfway gone. Not physically, mentally. This is the part that most people miss. People don't buy at the end of the webinar. I know, shocker, right? They decide much earlier. Usually somewhere in the middle. They subconsciously decide one of the two things. One, I need help with this, or two, I can probably figure this out myself. Everything you say after that just supposes a decision they already made, whether they want to buy at the end or whether they actually want to do it themselves. But the decision was made somewhere in the middle. So if your teaching pushes them towards the I can do this myself thing, no closing technique will save you at the end. Why being value packed is the wrong goal to aim for? I know this phrase is everywhere. Make it value packed, or come to my value packed webinar on Friday. I know it's a gimmick, but here's the problem. Too much value explained too clearly creates confidence without commitment. And that's the kicker, without commitment. And confidence without commitment leads to delay, which we don't like. Delay sounds harmless, but delay kills sales. Yeah, I know. People don't come back later. They move on, they forget. Life happens. So let's make this very practical, okay? Here's a simple test that you can make and you can use today. After a section of your webinar, ask yourself a couple of things. One, if I were watching this, would I feel clearer about why I need help or more confident that I could try this on my own? If the answer is B, that section is hurting you. Not because it's bad, but because it's doing the wrong job. So what to do instead? It's a simple, not too fancy solution, by the way. You don't need to be vague. You don't need to hide things. You just need to stop earlier. That's all you gotta do. And here's how. Explain the problem in a way that makes people say, oh, that's why this hasn't been working. That's huge. Most people don't need more tactics. They need a better explanation of what's actually wrong. Step two, show them the direction, not the full path. Say things like, this is what needs to change. This is what most people miss. This is where things usually break. But don't walk them through every step. The next thing that you can do is be honest. Be honest about where help fits in. You can just literally say something like this, one sentence. This is where most people get stuck when they try this alone. That doesn't feel salesy. It feels real because it is. Let me give you a dating analogy because it's obvious once you see it. We've all been there, all right? If someone tells you everything about themselves on the first date, every story, every detail, every thought, I think you get where I'm going with this, but hear me out. So there's no mystery in the relationship anymore, no reason to come back because they told you everything on the first date. But if they share enough, just enough to connect and leave room for more, you want to see them again, don't you? Your webinar is the same. It's not the whole relationship. You don't have to give everything in the first hour or so. It's the first few dates. Okay, take people on a date when you give them a webinar. Give them just enough to come back, just enough to want more. I talked about simpler webinars in one of my earlier videos, and here's the reason why they often convert better. Some of the highest converting webinars I've seen are almost boring on paper. Trust me, just a few slides, a few points, and a lot of repetition. Why? Because repetition helps people actually get it, not intellectually, emotionally. One of my concepts is the 27-minute webinar. We made wonders with that thing. 27 minutes, literally 20 slides, easy as hell. It's so compact, and we shed light on the thing that they actually been doing wrong for the whole time. And once that clicks, buying feels natural to them. No overloading. Take the core idea. In plain words, your webinar should make people feel clear, not capable. That's it. Clear about the problem, clear about what needs to change, clear about why doing it alone is harder than it looks. Capability comes later with support. Here's what you want to do, okay, really quickly, and I'll let you go after this. Go into your webinar slides, okay, pick one section, just simple one little section, and ask, what would happen if I removed half of this? Okay, not because it's bad, but because it might be unnecessary. Then run it again. Watch what happens to retention, to engagement, questions, and sales. I promise you, you will probably be surprised. Trust me on this. Then come back and leave a comment. I know you will. But before I let you go, hear me out on this. You don't need to prove how much you know. Okay? The people watching already assume you know more than they do. That's why they came to your webinar anyways. That's why they are there. So your job is to help them see their situation more clearly than they did before. That's what creates trust. That's what creates movement. And ultimately, that's what creates buyers. Less explaining, more understanding. Listen, almost everyone goes through this phase. I've been there too, you've been there too, probably you are there right now. And if you want more breakdowns like this, slow, practical, and real, don't forget to subscribe. By the way, YouTube is smarter than I am, so they think that you should watch this video next. Who am I to judge? Go ahead, check this out after you subscribe. See you in the next one.